Toyota just lit the entire truck market on fire, and the shockwaves are hitting every corner of the US auto industry. Dealers are stunned, competitors are scrambling, and buyers are flooding showrooms because Toyota has officially launched some of the biggest truck discounts we've seen in over a decade. And this isn't some small seasonal markdown or a regional rebate. This is a full-scale strategic strike aimed directly at Ford, Chevy, GMC, and Ram. It's a move industry insiders are calling the price war nobody expected, and it might completely rewrite how trucks are priced in America from this point forward. The moment Toyota announced these discounts, the reaction was instant mayhem. Dealerships started reporting double-digit spikes in foot traffic within hours. Buyers who were previously holding back due to insane interest rates and sky-high MSRPs suddenly realized they could get their hands on a Tundra or Tacoma for thousands less than they ever thought possible. Competitors didn't just feel the pressure, they felt the floor shaking beneath them. Ford analysts privately admitted that Toyota's move could force them to revisit their pricing on the F-150 much sooner than expected, while GM insiders warned that Silverado demand could get hammered if they don't respond immediately. But here's what makes this even crazier. Toyota didn't just drop prices, they slashed them in a way that strategically targets the most in-demand segments. We're talking massive cuts on Tundra trims that were already selling strong, aggressive incentives on the Tacoma that directly undercut the Ranger and Colorado, and eye-opening lease offers that make rivals look completely out of touch with the current market. Industry experts say Toyota basically detonated a pricing bomb right in the middle of a market already dealing with sinking demand, rising inventories, and a wave of manufacturers struggling to offload aging 2024 and 2025 stock. What's even more shocking is why Toyota did this now. For months, the company quietly built up inventory while rivals were scaling back production. That positioned Toyota perfectly to turn up the heat at the exact moment when other brands were most vulnerable. Rising interest rates, tightening credit, and the collapse of used truck prices left Ford, GM, and Ram exposed. So when Toyota launched these discounts, they weren't just trying to boost sales, they were trying to seize market share right out from under their rivals, and it's working flawlessly. Analysts already report that Toyota's truck sales momentum is skyrocketing faster than any competitor expected, and buyers are calling it the deal of the decade. And here's where it gets even more intense, because Toyota's discounts aren't just hurting the big three's sales, they're shaking the financials of the entire auto industry. Automakers have been relying on high truck prices and fat margins to survive a slowing economy, but this move obliterates that safety margin. With Toyota dragging prices down, everyone else will be forced to follow, and that means millions of dollars in lost profits across Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Analysts warn that if this price war escalates even a little further, we could see layoffs, plant slowdowns, and a massive reshuffling of the US truck hierarchy. Toyota's shock offensive is also exposing something the industry hoped buyers wouldn't notice: just how inflated truck prices have become over the past 5 years. For too long, automakers have pushed $60,000, $70,000, even $90,000 price tags on trucks that used to cost half as much, counting on cheap credit and brand loyalty to keep customers in line. But now that Toyota just cracked the pricing dam wide open, consumers are waking up fast. Buyers who once felt priced out of the market are suddenly realizing they can negotiate harder, walk away from overpriced deals, and demand discounts that were unthinkable just months ago. The power dynamic has shifted overnight. Dealers are no longer calling the shots, buyers are. And you can see that shift playing out in real time. Some Ford and GM dealers have quietly started calling back customers who walked out weeks ago, offering lower prices, deeper incentives, and terms they previously refused to consider. Ram dealerships, especially those stuck with heavy inventory of 1500 and 2500 models, are now slashing prices on the spot just to keep traffic from dropping off a cliff. This is the ripple effect Toyota was counting on. By striking first, Toyota forced the rest of the industry into defensive mode, and once a brand starts defending instead of leading, the game changes dramatically. But here's where things get even more explosive. Toyota isn't done. Insiders report that the brand is preparing a second wave of incentives targeting trims that traditionally hold their value extremely well, especially the off-road and hybrid configurations that buyers love. If Toyota goes through with those offers, it could completely demolish the premium pricing structure that Ford and GM rely on for their off-road packages like the Raptor, Tremor, Trail Boss, and AT4. Analysts say that if Toyota drops those discounts next, the Big Three's most profitable lineup segments could be wiped out instantly. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, automaker executives are scrambling to assemble emergency strategy meetings. Boardrooms in Detroit are filled with panicked discussions about production cuts, incentive shifts, and even early release plans for next-gen models. Several insiders have already leaked that Ford is weighing a potential nationwide discount sweep for selected F-150 trims, something they avoided for years because of margin protection. GM is reportedly considering early rebates on their 2025 Silverado and Sierra models, a move that indicates just how severe the pressure has become. And Ram, already struggling with slowing demand, is debating whether to roll out one of its biggest sales events ever just to stay in the fight. Meanwhile, consumers are winning big. For the first time in years, truck buyers are not only getting discounts, they're seeing real competition that forces prices down instead of up, and the momentum is building faster than anyone predicted. Truck forums are exploding with buyers sharing screenshots of insane offers. TikTok and YouTube are filled with people showcasing dealership deals that were unimaginable last year, and analysts say this could be the single largest pricing correction the US truck market has seen since the 2008 recession. And the craziest part, this price war is only just beginning, because Toyota's opening strike has forced every automaker into a corner. And now we're seeing the kind of panic moves that only happen when an industry feels the walls closing in. Ford is quietly pressuring its dealer network to hold the line on pricing, but dealers aren't listening. They can't. They're sitting on rows of trucks collecting dust, and with Toyota dragging customers away by the thousands, Ford dealers are breaking ranks and offering under-the-table discounts just to keep monthly numbers from collapsing. GM dealers, meanwhile, are warning corporate that inventory is building at a pace not seen since pre-pandemic levels, and if they don't match Toyota soon, they could be staring down a financial nightmare by early next year. This situation isn't just embarrassing for the big three, it's dangerous. Once a competitor forces you into discounting, your margins evaporate, your shareholders panic, and your ability to invest in future models gets crushed. But Toyota anticipated all of this. Their strategy wasn't just about lowering prices, it was about timing. They waited until consumer confidence was shaky, interest rates were suffocating buyers, and the used truck market was collapsing under its own weight. Then they struck, delivering discounts big enough to break through the financial pressure weighing on shoppers. Suddenly, a buyer staring at a $200 per month truck payment can now get that number down by hundreds. That's the kind of shift that changes buying decisions instantly, and Toyota knew it would force people to jump off the fence. The result? The biggest surge of buyer activity Toyota's truck division has seen since 2018. And here's what nobody expected. Toyota's aggressive pricing isn't just targeting retail buyers, it's crushing the fleet market. Construction companies, utility fleets, contractors, and government agencies are starting to shift orders from the big three to Toyota because the savings are simply too large to ignore. Fleet managers who've been loyal to Ford or Chevy for decades are now admitting that Toyota's offers are the most competitive they've seen in years. This is catastrophic for rivals because fleet purchases mean volume. Big, steady, reliable volume. Lose fleet buyers, and you're not just losing sales, you're losing long-term market share. Meanwhile, auto analysts are sounding alarms that the next 30 to 60 days could reshape the entire truck landscape in America. If Toyota continues this momentum, they could permanently change buyer expectations, push competitors into unsustainable discounting, and trigger a full-blown pricing collapse across the market. Truck depreciation could spike, used prices could fall even harder, and some manufacturers may be forced to cut production or shutter shifts just to stop the bleeding. What started as a discount strategy is rapidly becoming a shockwave, threatening the stability of the entire US truck sector. And this is only the beginning of the chaos, because Toyota has one more move up its sleeve, something insiders say could deliver the knockout punch if the big three don't respond fast. According to multiple insiders, Toyota is preparing to unleash what analysts are already calling the nuclear option, a nationwide incentive program on hybrid trucks. If this happens, it could obliterate the big three's remaining competitive advantage overnight. Why? Because Ford, GM, and Ram have been leaning heavily on their hybrid and premium trims to maintain profit margins while discounting their base models. But Toyota, with its massive hybrid expertise and lower production costs, can afford to slash prices on hybrid Tundras and Tacomas in a way the big three simply can't match without taking huge financial losses. If Toyota Toyota launches this program, they won't just attract new buyers, they'll steal the most profitable ones, and the early signs are already showing. Dealers in key markets have begun quietly whispering about incoming rebates for hybrid models, and a few leaked documents hint at lease offers that crush anything Ford's PowerBoost F-150 or GM's mild hybrid systems can compete with. If this leak is true, Ford could suddenly find itself with parking lots full of unsold hybrids, GM could face a disastrous quarter, and Ram, already struggling to find its footing in the EV and hybrid race, could be pushed dangerously close to a market collapse in several regions. This is why industry executives are panicking. They know Toyota has the capability, the inventory, and the timing to execute this move flawlessly. Meanwhile, customers watching this chaos unfold are getting more confident by the day. The mindset has shifted from "can I afford a truck" to "how good of a deal can I squeeze out of this price war?" People are walking into dealerships with screenshots of Toyota deals and demanding price matches from Ford, Chevy, and Ram. And guess what? In many cases, the dealers are caving. They're offering huge incentives, slashing MSRPs, and opening negotiation floors that were firmly locked just months ago. Buyers are taking control, and the automakers can't stop it because Toyota pulled the rug out from under them at the perfect moment. Even financial analysts on Wall Street are sounding the alarm. Several have lowered profit expectations for Detroit automakers, citing Toyota's aggressive discounts as the beginning of a downward spiral that could stretch well into next year. Stock prices for the big three have already seen increased volatility, and investors are bracing for impact as the price war intensifies. One analyst even warned that if Toyota doesn't let up soon, Detroit could face a margin crisis not seen since 2009. And that's not an exaggeration. High-priced trucks and SUVs are the financial backbone of Ford, GM, and Ram. If that backbone fractures, everything else starts to crumble. But Toyota's most genius move might be the psychological one. They've reshaped buyer expectations. People no longer see $60,000 to $80,000 trucks as normal. They're waking up to the overpricing, the bloated margins, and the years of inflated MSRPs. Toyota didn't just create a price war, they exposed the entire system. And now that buyers have tasted real discounts, there's no going back. Ford and GM can't convince people to pay premium prices anymore. Ram can't lean on incentives without bleeding cash. The market has shifted permanently, and Toyota is the one steering the wheel. And just when the big three thought the situation couldn't get any worse, Toyota is preparing to launch one more wave of pressure that could push them beyond the breaking point. Now comes the moment every executive in Detroit has been dreading. Toyota is gearing up to expand these aggressive discounts into regions where Ford, GM, and Ram have historically dominated for decades. We're talking Texas, the Midwest, and the Deep South, the heartland of American truck culture. These are markets the big three have always considered untouchable, where loyalty runs deep and competition rarely shifts. But Toyota has been quietly building a massive presence in these areas with local manufacturing, expanded dealer networks, and improved supply pipelines. And with the new wave of discounts about to hit these strongholds, insiders say Toyota could break the big three's grip right where it hurts the most. Dealers in Texas are already preparing for an unprecedented surge of demand. They've increased inventory, extended showroom hours, and some are even hiring extra staff because the pre-launch buzz around Toyota's next discount wave is exploding on social media. TikTok videos showing customers scoring unbelievable deals in California and Florida are now circulating among truck buyers in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. And the message is clear: if they got deals that crazy, we're next. That expectation alone is enough to trigger chaos, because the moment these incentives officially go live, Ford and Chevy dealers in the region will be forced to slash prices instantly or risk losing decades-long customers in a single weekend. What makes this move even more devastating is the timing. Ford and GM were already struggling with inflated inventories in truck-heavy regions, and Ram has been trying desperately to move older models before the next wave of refreshed pickups arrives. Toyota's expansion of discounts into these markets hits Detroit at its most vulnerable moment. Trucks that were supposed to help dealerships recover from slow months are now becoming financial liabilities because they can't compete with Toyota's offers. And every unsold truck sitting on a lot is another day of interest, another hit to dealer profits, and another sign to customers that better deals are still to come. And the effects aren't just financial, they're cultural. For decades, driving a Ford or Chevy truck in states like Texas wasn't just a purchase decision, it was part of an identity. But Toyota's discounts are so so massive that even the most loyal buyers are reconsidering. When someone who's driven F-150s for 20 years sees they can save $6,000, $8,000, even $10,000 by switching to a Tundra, that's not a small temptation. That's a reason to break tradition, and once people break tradition in a market as symbolic as Texas, the entire national truck landscape starts to shift. Meanwhile, industry strategists warn that this could snowball far beyond truck pricing. Once the big three start losing ground in their truck strongholds, their entire business model becomes unstable. Profit margins shrink, investor confidence drops, development budgets tighten, and it becomes harder to fund the EV transition, hybrid expansion, and next-gen platforms. Toyota isn't just undercutting prices, they're weakening the foundations of their competitors' future. But here's where the situation turns into a full-blown crisis. Toyota's next internal strategy memo reportedly outlines a plan that could push this price war to a level nobody thought possible. According to insiders who've seen the memo, Toyota is preparing to target the one area the big three absolutely cannot afford to lose: their 2025 and 2026 model launch cycles. This is where Ford, GM, and Ram plan to regain control, with refreshed designs, new tech packages, upgraded interiors, and higher MSRPs meant to rebuild profits after a brutal 2 years. But Toyota's next move threatens to detonate that entire strategy before it even begins. The memo outlines a coordinated plan to undercut upcoming Ford and GM model launches by preemptively dropping even deeper discounts on current Tundra and Tacoma inventory, making the rivals' shiny new models look overpriced before they even arrive in showrooms. Think about how devastating that is. Ford plans to push new F-150 packages at premium pricing. GM's betting big on the refreshed Silverado and Sierra. Ram is counting on its next-gen 1500 lineup to revive slumping sales. But if Toyota floods the market with price-slashed trucks at the exact moment their competitors roll out expensive new models, buyers will instantly compare price tags, and the big three lose that comparison every single time. Why pay $68,000 for a new F-150 when a heavily discounted Tundra is tens of thousands cheaper and available today? Why consider a next-gen Silverado when you can walk out of a Toyota dealership this weekend with a jaw-dropping deal? This tactic doesn't just chip away at their launches, it threatens to crush them, and the pressure is already mounting. Ford dealers are warning that if Toyota ramps up discounts right before the new F-150 models arrive, they'll be stuck with last year's inventory at catastrophic losses. GM dealers say the same about their remaining 2024 and 2025 trucks. And Ram, already the most vulnerable, could face a market freeze if buyers decide to delay purchases to see whether Toyota pushes discounts even further. This is the kind of strategic warfare that can derail an entire production cycle and force automakers into emergency pricing collapses. Meanwhile, customers are becoming smarter, more aggressive, and more empowered. They're tracking inventory levels, monitoring incentives, and sharing discount leaks across Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook groups. And Toyota knows that once buyers enter wait and watch mode, the big three are finished. Because when customers expect deeper discounts, sales freeze. And when sales freeze, automakers panic. Once panic takes over, incentives explode, margins evaporate, and the downward spiral becomes impossible to stop. But the most shocking part? Toyota hasn't even revealed all their cards yet. Leaks suggest there's one final phase of the plan, something so extreme that analysts are calling it a direct assault on Detroit's last remaining weapon. If Toyota pulls the trigger on this next move, it could flip the US truck market on its head in a way we haven't seen since the financial crisis. And that final phase, the move Toyota has been quietly preparing, is aimed directly at the one lifeline the big three have been clinging to: financing. For years, Ford Credit, GM Financial, and Chrysler Capital have relied on high interest rates to squeeze out extra profit even when sales slowed. Even if they couldn't sell trucks at massive margins, they made up for it by charging buyers brutal APRs. But Toyota's next play threatens to destroy that advantage overnight. Insiders say Toyota is preparing to launch sub 3% financing and zero down offers on select Tundra and Tacoma models nationwide. If this becomes official, it will be the most devastating blow yet. Why? Because Ford, GM, and Ram simply cannot match it without lighting their balance sheets on fire. Their financing arms are already stretched thin by rising delinquencies, falling credit scores, and inventory pressure. Offering low-interest loans would wipe out out their remaining profit buffer, and they know it. Toyota, on the other hand, has massive cash reserves and lower debt exposure, giving them the flexibility to offer ultra-aggressive financing that the big three cannot match. Imagine being a buyer comparing deals. Toyota offering 2.99% APR with $0 down versus Ford offering 8% APR with thousands up front. It doesn't matter how loyal someone is to the brand. The math alone pushes them toward Toyota. This would trigger a buying frenzy unlike anything in the last decade, pulling even more customers away from Ford, Chevy, and Ram at the exact moment they need sales the most. Dealers are already terrified because if Toyota pulls this off, it won't just shift the market, it will gut it. And here's where the real danger kicks in for the big three. The moment Toyota unleashes low interest financing, the used truck market collapses even further. Why buy a 2-year-old used F-150 with a 10% APR when you can get a brand new Tundra at 2.99% with $0 down? Used inventory would stall, depreciation would spike, and dealerships would get crushed under mounting losses. That's the nightmare scenario analysts have been warning about, an across-the-board correction that forces fire sale pricing across thousands of lots, from Texas to Michigan to Arizona. But Toyota's plan doesn't stop at financing. The memo hints at something even more aggressive: bundled incentives, where Toyota packages discounts, low APR, and extended warranties into one massive value offer. This is the kind of one-punch knockout strategy that can shift hundreds of thousands of sales in a single quarter. And if Toyota executes it during peak shopping season, competitors won't just feel pain, they'll feel collapse-level pressure. Dealers for Ford and GM are already bracing for the worst. Some are quietly dialing back new orders, others are pleading with corporate to prepare emergency incentives. And behind closed doors, executives are openly admitting that Toyota's multi-phase strategy may force them to cut production, reduce profit expectations, or even delay upcoming model launches just to avoid overflowing lots. When automakers begin talking about slowing production in the middle of a supposed recovery, that's when you know the crisis is real. But the most explosive part of this entire situation hasn't even hit yet, because insiders say Toyota is preparing a public announcement that could flip the entire narrative and ignite the next wave of this unprecedented price war.